We're talking about Logic Pro user guide. Getting very close to the end of the series here. I really do hope it's been a catapult for you. I hope it's been a an edifice that you can stand on, and it's just something that you can rely on. Certainly, there's a lot of great information. I can attest to that. Let me bring you in really quick. I want to show you a couple things. So before we usually get started, we just clear up a couple things that may have come up on the last session to do our best to cover our tracks. Last thing we want to do is, spread any misinformation. I mean, there may be times where, either through lack of experience or lack of information, we do or anybody gets anything wrong on certain media outlets. And so just want to make our best to clean up as best as we can here. I will say that when I checked input monitoring only for focus track inside of Logic Pro, that the behavior did not work as mentioned on the user guide. It says when this is enabled, you only hear incoming audio during playback or recording. And well, that just wasn't true in my case. I could hear it all the time. I could hear it when it was, on standstill. I mean, nothing was happening. So I just want to make sure that was clarified. Let me know if anything is different on your end. I do want to say that I looked into multi-threading inside of Edgar Rothermick's GEM manuals. This one specifically is what's new in 10.2.1. It's got the greatest series of Logic books and kind of goes over every single thing possible. And explains the process of multi-threading. It has to be programmed to take advantage of the multiple threads to spread their workload across the individual threads on your computers. And so there's two modes that you can select inside of the preferences, and one of them is called playback and one of them is called live input. So let's read a little bit here. It says all the calculations. Oh, wait a minute. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, you are. Let's see. All the calculations needed to process the audio signal running through a single channel strip has to be performed on one thread and cannot be spread over multiple threads. Of course, if you have more channel strips than cores, then multiple channel strips are assigned to the available threads. Which one depends on how efficient Logic distributes the load. So let's try and see if one of these distribution modes can be better for your setup. So here it says playback mode is the default mode where Logic tries to spread the load of each channel strip across the available threads. If you have too much going on a particular channel strip, we'll say you might overload and get an error message, especially if Logic assigns other channel strips to that same thread. Please note that this is not necessarily a logic limitation and more of a technical challenge. Plugin acts as one unit. Its processing can't be split up by the applications to be processed on that multiple threads. So what can we do to spread the love, to spread the workload? Plugin itself has to be specially coded, so it depends on the plugin that you're using. For now, all the plugins on a single channel strip act as the main audio processing thread that has to be processed in series on a single thread. Another reason why it's good to optimize your system, to bounce everything to audio, to freeze tracks, things of that nature. Your only option for a fully loaded channel strip, plugins, bus, sends, is to split the audio signal and load to an aux channel strip, which as a separate channel strip can be handled by a separate thread. That's really interesting. So rather than having all of the plugins on just an audio channel strip, let's say, you can create an aux, send the signal, and perhaps distribute the plugins among two of these channel strips, audio channel strip and an aux. Obviously, this is a bit more technical, more advanced, but it's giving you a workable solution here. In fact, I'm going to highlight that. In general, whenever an audio signal can be rendered in parallel, Logic will use multiple threads. So here are some examples of that. All right, and let's figure out what live input is. What does this mean? It says it's a mysterious logic thing that makes the already complex subject of thread distribution even more, let's say, interesting. However, Very important, especially when trying to understand the new multi-threading settings in Logic Pro. Why am I getting I'm just going to read this till the end. I know we have the beach ball going here. However, it's very important, especially when you try to understand the new multi-threading setting. So let's see how this one works. The main thing I was saying yesterday was when we use multi-threading in live playback and live mode, what is it doing exactly? I mean, obviously, it's distributing the workload with live tracks, but after we record them, are they now considered playback tracks, or are they still considered live tracks? And that was kind of the argument in the background. So when selecting a software instrument channel strip or selecting its record enable button, Logic enters live input mode when you start playback or play that track via Midi. Enable button, Logic. Okay, so you're using a software instrument track and you record enable, you automatically go into live input mode. It takes about 100 milliseconds to engage. You might have noticed sometimes when playing your first note on your MIDI keyboard that the newly selected track has little delay on it. This is the live input mode kicking in. Oh yeah, this is interesting. I've noticed this before. So the very first time, if you're utilizing this multi-threading option, you hit a MIDI note. We're not talking about latency. It's just the very first time you play a note, you'll notice a slight delay. And that's because this is kicking in. Again, it's at 100 milliseconds. Live input mode will also be enabled on audio channel strip. Not when it's selected, but when it is record enabled. The live input mode has a major implication about how Logic distributes the workload. Now, all channel strips that are part of the signal flow relate to that selected channel strip are handled by a single thread. This is done to ensure low latency during recording. The major downside, as many Logic users will know, is the higher risk of a system overload message. If you think about it, if an instrument channel strip has CPU-intensive instrument plugins plus lots of CPU-intensive audio effects plugins routed to multiple aux channel strips with their own plugins, and all that routed to the output channel strip with even more plugins, then all of that is going to be processed on a single thread. So this right here is going to help you with that issue, but it does say that, there are some downsides to it, because all the channel strips that are part of the signal flow related to that selected channel strip are handled by a single thread. So after recording, go back to playback mode. That's probably the best way to put it. And they do go through an example here. So the one on the left is in playback mode. And then the illustration on the right, live input mode. It says, here's what happens when I select the second instrument channel strip. It switches that channel strip to live input mode, which means this instrument channel strip plus the aux plus the output are all processed on a single thread, which now reaches its maximum and might result in an overload message. You can see that on this number 8 right here. To avoid the situation and the negative side effect, never leave an instrument channel strip selected if you don't want to record on it. Select an audio channel strip instead, or even better, a track with no output assignment. So all they're saying is, hey, look, this is a big problem when you're using live tracks, when you're recording live audio or MIDI. But if you're going to use it for the time being, do not select a software instrument channel strip. Make sure that an audio channel strip is in key focus. And even better yet, a track with no output assignment. Now, after this extended introduction and hopefully with a better understanding of threading, let's look at the new multi-threading. Just want to see if there's anything else. Okay, yeah. When you select playback and live tracks option from the multi-threading setting, the individual channel strips of the summing stack are distributed to the individual threads. So all of the individual channel strips are distributed to the individual threads. Let's see, nicely loaded. The new playback and live setting will also improve the load balance if you record with a high number of audio tracks on an individual. So if you're recording drums per se or a performance, because live input mode also affects the audio channels, which benefit from a more efficient load balancing across the available threads. Okay, very good. So that is that. Hopefully that helps you guys. The one thing that has still been a challenge to tackle was Catch has 3 different modes, and if you haven't been following those, the third one, it says catch content, and what is it again? Catch content by position if catch and link are enabled. Tried playing with it, tried looking up the research. But anything support this or to help, please let us know here. We're just doing our very best to fill in all the gaps, and it's time to get started. All right, let's go on page 1015. All right, hope you're well. Happy Wednesday. Let's do it. So we're talking about recording preferences in Logic Pro now. And this is where you essentially make an executive decision. Are you going to use WAV as your recording file type? You can use AIFF. It depends on who you're working with and kind of the benefits that outweigh the others. It does say here you can select AIFF, WAV, CAF, and I know that WAV files and I believe AIFF contain some metadata inside of the actual file. It does say here that AIFF and BWF files are the more universal. All right, by BWF they mean WAV. So the 2 most prominent file types are WAV and AIFF, but CAF allows for exceptionally long recordings. So if you're doing a podcast or some kind of long rant, you might want to use CAF files. I don't know what the science is, but we're just going based on the user guide here. If you don't plan on recording continuous half-day or longer audio files, select either AIFF or WAV. All right, for most of us, we're going to want to have the 24-bit recording checkbox enabled. I mean, the only reason you should ever have this off is you have a computer that is not as powerful, and so you're just going to disable this so that you can save a little bit of space and save a little bit by way of CPU. All right, so let's talk about overlap track recordings. This is a feature that we can find right here inside of preferences, recording. Okay, so these are the defaults, right? But we can also change those inside of record, overlapping MIDI, overlapping audio. For example, if I change overlapping audio to new tracks, then that is reflected there. But this is something that you can change globally, right? We're inside of preferences. So this changes everything from here on out, every single session that I create. So that's great. And so really it just depends on what you want to do. I find that in most cases with most people that I work with and that I've trained, that the default settings are pretty great. Usually you're going to want to create take folders for audio, whether the cycle region is on or off. It's a rare thing that I find other people using other methodologies, but it does happen, and that's why we have them there. And then when it comes to MIDI, it's very seldom that you're going to want a take folder. People usually want to either merge, and if they don't want to merge the information, then they're going to want to either create a new track or do something like that. Yeah, because remember, you don't have the capacity to use the quick swipe comping inside of MIDI, and so it makes more sense to utilize merge. As far as the replace mode, you can select one of 4. We have gone over this on the channel as well. Man, that was a long time ago. So let's carry on here. You can set that up so that it's always popping up. Let's see, MIDI preferences. All right, next icon. What do we got here? All right, there's a checkbox that says external stop messages ends recording. If you're using external synchronization and the time code stops while recording, record mode is turned off. If this checkbox is unselected, Logic Pro stops but remains in record mode. All right, I'm not doing external synchronization, so I'm not sure if this should be on or off. I'm just going to leave it on. Reset all MIDI drivers. This can help you if you experience MIDI communication problems. that ever happened to you where you're working on the program and then something is just moving? It's just going haywire. Like there's, like the playhead has stopped and all of a sudden something's just moving like this. I'm sure it has. Sometimes what happens with your controllers is they start sending data to logic. And so sometimes you're going to want to reset all the MIDI drivers. You click that one time over and you should be good. All right, resetting messages. Let's move here. These preferences are included for compatibility with older MIDI hardware. All right, this is actually really great to know, right? If you don't have old MIDI hardware, then this is probably not somewhere that you're going to visit. For selected controller types, a reset message is sent to all MIDI outputs. This reset message is sent on cycle jumps and when playback begins. However, Logic Pro handles MIDI reset messages automatically and intelligently, so you should generally make sure that all of these options are unselected, which they are by default. All right, so yeah, if you're having any problems with software instruments, it looks like up here in external MIDI, then this is something that you can do to reset. Let's say sustain. Maybe your sustain pedal is going crazy. Your modulation source, you can reset that to 0. And then pitch bend to the center position. I know that happens from time to time, and so you can reset it like that. Do not have any MIDI hardware here, but you see a lot of the same features. They're just they're going to kind of communicate with external MIDI. All right, let's go to sync. We actually have visited this menu before when we were in the synchronization chapter. Let's see, it says here, oh, this is good. All MIDI output, delay slider, delays or advances the MIDI output for all ports, so you can compensate for any timing differences between MIDI tracks and audio or software instrument tracks. So this only pertains if you're using external MIDI. There may be some delay compensation that needs to be adjusted. You would use that there. For MTC, I don't remember what that was for. If that's a tape machine, you're gonna have to visit one of the last synchronization settings to get updated. But here it says this should be set to 0. Ensures the quickest possible pickup time while Logic Pro is in MIDI timecode, MTC. Excuse me. There are, however, some devices that seem to transmit imprecise MTC commands when first started. All right, so that's something you would play with, external hardware. Let's carry on here. This is not something that I think most Logic users are going to use. MIDI input preferences. This is important. Sometimes a hardware device using the same MIDI input port to communicate with both Logic and other software applications may send large streams of MIDI data, causing playback artifacts or corrupted projects. So if you're having problems with a controller, you might want to check it out here, see if there's a bad connection to deactivate the MIDI input for MIDI hardware, which communicates with other software applications. In my case, everything's running pretty smooth. Then it says here, for example, an audio interface may use a virtual USB MIDI port to send a continuous stream of MIDI SysX data to both its mixer software and to Logic Pro. If you're experiencing these issues when using Logic Pro with hardware devices or other applications, MIDI inputs preferences can be used to deactivate specific MIDI imports in use by other software applications. I don't know, maybe you're hearing a click, you're trying to find out where it's coming from, you deactivate the MIDI input, and then that may be a solution for you. All right, this one actually is going to be good. It's going to be worth your time here. Let's go to display. A lot of good stuff here. Start from the top. Large local window menus. Okay, yeah. So if you want the local menus to have a larger window, which in my case, I most certainly do, this is not going to work. I definitely like to look at everything with ease. Go ahead and enable that. I do think that's important. We talked about the large inspector, the wide playhead. You can see how my playhead is very visible, right? Really easy to see. Some of you might like a sleek look, in which case you don't need your playhead to be a little bit wider. Show help tags, imperative if you're going to take on the Logic Pro power user path. If this is something that you want to take on, which by the way, I've got about 5 courses done now of the 10 that we're going to be offering for free. So if you're interested in pre-registration, go ahead and email support@hfmusicacademy.com. But when I click and hold here, you can see a help tag that is giving us some information in terms of the length of the region and also just the position. So to me, this is vital. It shouldn't even be an option, but anyway, show default values. Really important when it comes to the inspectors. See, when I disable it, we have no numbers and figures to let us know where we currently stand. And so then if I click on this audio region, it's nice to know that it hasn't been affected via the transpose field here or fine tune, etc. And so that is pretty amazing for me. These next two I don't really like or need, and I'll explain why. It says that when I select the new tracks dialog icon option here, that essentially when I open up the new tracks, I can see a bunch of pictures. So you'll see right now if I hit Option Command N, I get this nominal, not unimpressive look. It's fine. I'm here to take care of business. I don't need it to look a certain way. When I do turn this on, look at what happens. Right? Everything looks cute. Everything has all the imagery and the icons. And so for me, I personally just don't need that. This is why I disable that. What about animations? When selected, various windows and functions open with animations. If you find the animations distracting, deselect the checkbox. This is also going to save you a little bit of CPU. That's the reason I have it turned off. Okay, let's go to displays. What are we talking about here? This is going to affect the description of notes in the editors. In the bottom C on a 5-octave keyboard, note number 36 is labeled C1, and middle C is labeled C3. According to the standard, the lowest MIDI note, number 0, is called C-2. So this is the official standard. So Logic is going to be using this. If you want to change this for some reason, you can. I'm not sure why somebody would, but you can either have the middle C displayed on C3, or you can follow the Roland way, which is C4. I'm going to leave it there. I'm so used to it at this point. Let me see. Let me actually just change this, and let's see if this follows suit. I don't know. Maybe I do like that. Well, I'll tell you what. If I open up a drummer, let's say I'm doing this for a reason, because I'm really curious to see if, hold on. I'm just curious to see if I pull up like drum kit designer or even drum machine designer. In fact, let me just do it this way. Drummer, let's do electronic. I'll hit create. Sometimes I'll open up a track like this and I'll want to go for the kick immediately. Okay, so that's C2. If I change this over to C4, yeah, so I'm going to spend some time with that because I'm really curious if this is going to be a better fit for me. I'm going to leave it there for now. Okay, display time. See how we're looking at the time up here in the LCD? Let's close up a couple screens here. PI. Instead of having hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds in display, we can change that. Let's change that up to everything pretty much being the same except samples. So then now that's going to look a little bit different because I've changed the display time. So I'll go back to milliseconds. You can also do something that's pretty cool, which is display the zeros as spaces. Now look at this, much cleaner workflow. I'm no longer looking at anything except just the seconds. So 2 seconds in, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, so let's see what that looks like in real time. And by the way, we're looking up here just to be clear. So I don't know, it just depends on what works for you. I can see this being a little confusing. I'm going to leave that there. Display the tempo as BPM without decimals. Should we have beats per minute and Malzel? Not even sure what that means. Okay, that means with the decibels. It's probably not a bad idea to actually have the decimal value, because sometimes, I'm sure it's happened to some of you, you work and then you realize that there's some kind of decimal added or subtracted, and yeah, it could be weird. We have frames per click as well. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that. I like that. I do like the fact that it looks a little bit cleaner, but at the same time it can be deceptive. All right, and then the clock format. Looking at the clock format here, it just depends on how you want to look at it. You can have a couple of periods, no periods. How do you want the tick value to be displayed? See, in my case, I have it as 1, but you can also have it set up to 0 like this, so that you're moving along. Let me move it. Yeah, so you see how it's I start at 0 and then I go to 239. Let's see if I can really get in there. And then we know that a division, slip of the hand, 39 and 40. So that actually might be good. That might be worth noting. The only problem is if you're communicating with somebody and you don't understand their clock format, that may be a little confusing. So just a heads up, make sure you know kind of where they are and where you are and how you like to work. I think everybody's going to operate a little bit differently. I'd like it when, yeah, so like for example, I'm on bar 23 right now, as you can see right here. And let's look at the playhead, bar 23, beat 1, so I could change that beat to beat 2 or 3 or 4. We're on bar 17 per se. Let's change this to division 2, 3, 4, and go all the way up. 16 divisions equal 1 bar. And so that's another way of looking at it. So anyway, play with that, see what you like. I'll leave that there. All right, what about tracks? So this is a pretty great feature, new to 10.6, show track or bar number while scrolling. Now, I don't have a lot of tracks. Is this bugging out? All right, yeah, if you enable this, in fact, let me just create a couple more tracks and see if I can hack this really quick. But basically, Logic shows you, yeah, I don't think it's going to work for me. Yeah, it's bugging out. But basically, Logic will show you the track count and then the bar number if you're going horizontally here. So play with that. Really nice feature. For some reason, I'm getting a bug. If you've ever imported various files from a construction kit, from Splice, and you don't want Logic to have a static color, right? Just have everything be blue. You can auto assign it so that you get a range of 96 different colors or just 24 different colors. So literally your session will look like a rainbow. Let me see if I can pull this off here. Let me click on the all loops and I'll hit shift. Okay, let's drag in a bunch of loops. We're going to create new tracks. Now, bear in mind, I just dragged in a couple, but look how nice that looks. See that color-coded action? If you don't do that and you just have this set to static, let's look at the difference. So yeah, I think most people will think this is kind kind of not going to work. I mean, it's nice to see clearly that these are MIDI tracks and that these are audio tracks. So in that respect, it's great. But whatever works for you, that's fine. All right, let's hit Command Z. All right, region color. This is also brand new to 10.6. If I select as track color, if I color track number 1, I'll hit the key command. Hold on, I'll hit the key command Option C. Let me color this red. You can see that not only are the regions in full display, but the actual color bar on the left-hand side is also selected. That's really nice. In the past, we used to have to command click the color. It was a whole thing. So now you can choose that behavior, which I assume is going to be pretty dominant in most people's workflow. But you can also choose individual, where you are independently selecting, let's say, this region to be pink and this one to be turquoise and this one to be yellow, what have you. And so that works as well. I think there are benefits to both systems. Obviously, the organizational nature of track color is going to speak to a lot of people, but there are times where I do like to have regions colored a different way. I do prefer this one because it's a little bit more efficient, but if I ever need to access the individual track color, I know where to go. All right, marker color. So this is kind of the same thing as before. You can auto assign colors to the markers. Why is that necessary? Well, it's not necessary, but if you import files that have marker set up, they don't have to look boring. So let's do this in the marker list just to kind of change it up here. All right, so bar 1, let's say, and you see that there's a marker bar. No, there's no marker there, so I'll hit plus. And then if I go to marker 2, you can start seeing that we're getting some color graded action, and it'll keep going apparently for 24 different iterations. And so the session does look really nice, and it is easier to distinguish. If you do not do this, you're basically going to have a very solemn looking track. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go here, here, and it works as well, but we just got to throw it out there, right? So I'm going to keep mine as auto assigned. I don't know if I need 96 colors. The background, do you like a darker background, right? Do you like dark mode, or do you want to go bright in the tracks area? I like to stay there. If you appreciate grid lines for alignment purposes, I think this is really, really helpful. You can have it set to automatic, as I do, or you can really go haywire and have this look like a science project or something. So this is great. I'm going to go back to automatic, and you can delineate how hard the horizontal lines are printed or displayed. You can change those to be a black color if you have a white background. So that could be kind of interesting, right? If we do this kind of thing. Actually, it looks pretty sweet, to be honest. I just prefer this this angle here. All right, so shaded loops. What does that mean? If I ever hit the key command L, these will look shaded and not necessarily highlighted, almost like a region. So this gives us a little bit more information. I actually really like that. For drummer tracks, you ever notice this plus, this icon here that has a plus symbol? So here, if we deselect show plus button next to drummer, we're not going to know if this can do what it needs to do. So for some, we like to be able to hover over, click one time, and automatically populate the drummer track. For some of us, we don't need that, right? We can control click and we can populate with drummer regions. Or when you do populate, it's going to just create some musical performances from the incision point all the way to the project end. But if you just want one region, you would control click create drummer region. So I guess I'm just gonna leave that on. Kind of rethinking all this. I've done this so many different times, but of course, you're always learning something new. You're always picking up on new stuff. All right, this one's pretty sweet. I will say I do have a bug on this. It's been a long time coming, but I want to throw it out there. If I open up a plugin, if I instantiate a plugin inside of Logic, it should just open up plugin window on insertion. That should be the behavior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click. Okay, so it looks like it actually did it there. If I didn't do that, if I disable this feature, I open up the EQ, but it doesn't open up the plugin per se. So I really like the automatic nature of Logic, right? If I open up a compressor by double clicking below the setting tab here, look at what happens. Really nice, right? Here, let me close this program. It's doing some funny stuff. Okay, good. So let's hit V to hide that. Show recent plugin list in the plugin menu. Okay, why is this important? Let's say you're using a deharsher or a compressor and you want to see the last 5 plugins that you've inserted because you're creating some type of drum kit, drum rack. This is important to have on. If you disable it, you will not see the recent plugins that you have been working on. Now, this could be beneficial for those of you that have a really, long laundry list of plugins here. That may be helpful. For me, I do find that I do access this from time to time, so I will have this at the ready. All right, level meters. So now we are controlling the behavior of the meters inside of Logic Pro. Let's go ahead and address that. Let's see here. All right. For peak hold time, you can choose the length of the peak hold time, 800 seconds, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, or infinite. If we look at the channel strips, in fact, let me just play this out so we can hear this back. All right, so this 3.3 is the peak meter. You can see that it's a little hot, right? And so what it's saying here is, how long do you want me to hold this? Do you want me to hold it for 2 seconds? Do you want me to hold it for 4? Let's see what happens if I hold it infinitely. So now for some reason it read 1.1. What's the difference? Hold on, I want to see this. Okay, and 1.1. Hold on. I didn't really see a difference with the hold time. Well, let's see if return time makes a difference. So when it's going back down to 0, how is it going to do that? The industry standards is the IEC type. Okay, 11.8 recommended. Let's see what happens if we go very slow. I'm just curious. Yeah, look how long that takes back to normal. I'm just going to leave that in the recommended spot. I'm still a little curious about this peak hold time. I didn't notice a single difference. Let's try one last time. Yeah, I didn't really see it. All right, scale. What is scale? We can have the channel strip look and feel a little bit different based on the scale. I don't know if you guys can see that. You're gonna have to try it out, but right now it looks a certain way. It's kind of being measured a certain way. And if I switch this over to exponential, yeah, instead of it saying 0 and 3, 6, 9, it just went from 0, 1, 2, 3. So I much prefer this. And what about the channel order? What is this about? Determines the order of channels in the multi-channel surround. Okay, well, I'm not using surround. I wish I could turn this off, but anyway, editors in the piano roll. Would you like a bright or a dark background? All right, let's carry on the score editor. Not a lot of settings here, but inside of the project settings, there is a boatload of options. So inside of the score editor, if you double click to open, let's see what that means. Looks like there used to be more stuff here. Determines the window that opens when you double click a note head. So if you're in the score editor, you probably want the note attributes window to open. I can't imagine that you would want something else to open, but anyway, there it is right there. What is this? Auto splits notes in polyphonic staff styles. Saves newly recorded notes automatically with the different MIDI channels used in the corresponding staff style. This preference is relevant only if the chosen default is polyphonic and is using MIDI channels. So maybe like if you're playing a bass on the left-hand side and a piano on the right-hand side. I would assume. I don't know, to be honest. The rest of this we do not have at our disposal. Movie preferences. I've read a lot of kind of controversial material over this and how it affects the movie settings inside of the global tracks. Let's see how this works. So we have the first movie to project slider, fine-tunes the start point of a movie. So if you want to fine-tune the start point of a movie, then you can utilize this. I would assume, let's say you have a long start time and you really want to kind of nail this and make sure it's perfectly in line. That would be very beneficial. What about movie track, the cache size? What's all this about? Defines the resolution of the thumbnail kept inside of the internal memory. That's pretty cool. I do like that. Never thought about that. Maximum cache size slider. Okay, what's this about? Defines the amount of memory reserved for the thumbnail. So 40 megabytes is recommended. Of course, if you use higher resolution, it's going to use more data. Section is for reserved memory is only occupied when actual movie data is displayed. All right, cool. What is this? When selected, Logic Pro uses the same output for the movie soundtrack as it does for all the rest of your audio. That's interesting. See, I have it deselected. So what is it? In fact, I wasn't planning on doing this, but what is it actually using then? Yeah, we have to check now. Hold on. File, import. Let's see. I'm sorry. Movie, open movie. You guys will get a sneak peek into the courses that I'm working on for you. Incredible resources, going to change your life. You can watch the entire, over 100 videos that we have, or you can just watch this series and it'll basically sum up most of everything. So if I bring this in, open the movie, extract the audio, I'm just going to use the recommendation. Okay, so here it is over here. I'm just basically, curious of where is this playing out of? Is it playing out of the preview track inside of the mixer? And if so, I just want to know about it. So let's go to the all tracks and let's look for that preview. Here it is right here. So if this is off, is this movie playing through here? Let's see. Main properties. No, it's playing from here. So what does this do? What is the difference? I can clearly see what the... Yeah, I'm not sure what that is all about. Lock a movie when changing screen sets. So what happens if I don't do that? If I hit the key command 2, is the movie still here? Well, the movie's still here. I can see that. Okay, let me go back to 1 and let me lock it this time. Hold on. Oh, the position of the movie, like literally. Yeah, this is good, right? You're scoring a film, a trailer, commercial, and you don't want it to move positions when you switch screen sets. That's beautiful. I like that a lot. Let's go back to screen set number 1. If you want to learn more about screen sets, go ahead and check out one of the videos that we did earlier on the series. You got to remember, we're on page 1,000 something, and we've been doing this since January. So there's a lot of content for you to catch up on. If you're just tuning in, use Logic Pro output. This is the only thing I'm not quite sure of. Logic Pro uses the same output for the movie as it does for all the rest of your audio. Need more information on that. Just not sure how to interpret that just based on all the information on the screen. Anyway, yeah, this is the information that I am putting out. We have 10 free courses, a Logic Pro bootcamp, if you will. It's going to be free for all subscribers. So if you're interested in learning everything about the program in a very succinct and clear way, I go over all the nitty gritty. No need to watch 1 hour videos or 2 hour videos. I am going to give you the breakdown in 10 videos, and these are all going to be free for anyone subscribed to Resources for the Modern Creative. All right, let me go ahead and delete this. And I just learned this as well. If you go to remove movie, right? It's been one of the benefits of doing this and hanging out with you guys here. It's just been the amount of learning has been absolutely incredible. Let's do automation, and then we will maybe wrap it up. We'll see. I'm in a good mood today. Hope you guys are well. Happy Wednesday. Stay up, guys. Keep focusing on what you're doing, and it's going to break. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. So keep doing what you're doing. Let me make sure that you're looking at what I'm looking at here. Okay, good. All right, what are we doing? Let's continue on here. The only thing that was unsure was this. What does this do? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I don't have enough information. Everything else we are good. Automation preferences. When you move automation, there's a decision going on in the background. It's either always, never, or it's going to ask you something. So this depends on your workflow. I personally like the ask feature. Now, when you change it here, I just want to be clear that you are really changing that inside of mix, move track automation with regions, and you can see that both of these say ask. If you're very sure of yourself and you know what you're doing, you might want to have always selected. And same goes for never, because you're probably very particular and you know that you don't want to move any automation. This could also be very project specific depending on what you're doing, right? All right, so I'll just set that up to ask. It's probably the best of both worlds. What does include trails if possible? And I guess I'll give you an example. Sorry, I didn't think about that. So let's say this region has some automation. Then I want to move this specific region. I want to move it over. Well, when I move it, what's the behavior? Is it going to ask me? In this case, it's asking me, hey, do you want to copy the automation data? Right? If I hit yes, look at this. Same automation data. If I say always, it's just going to copy. If I say never, it will never copy the information over. Include trails. Includes the automation trails of regions. Automation parameters movements in the end or region with all the copy or move actions. That I wish I had like a, illustration at that point. So let me just pretend there's like a long dip like this. I don't know. I'm going to give it a go. All right. And then I move this over. Let's go bar 11. And I will copy. It looks like a facsimile. I don't know if it means that it's just going to copy from then out, if it kind of takes the last value. And so let's try that. Here, let's Command Z all this. I will not include trails this time. And I'll click on the region. I'll Option drag it over. I will copy it. Yeah. You guys see the difference here? Oh, wait a minute, but I botched that. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I literally created this on purpose like that. All right, hold on. Delete this. Gain control of this session. Okay. So as of now, it trails down. I took off the trail. Let's see what this looks like. I'll copy it. Yeah. So not sure what that's doing. Include trails if possible. I've had it on this whole time. I've never had any issues. But if you have some info on this, please hit us up. Maybe I'll try and do some research on my end. All right, pencil tool pop-up menu. This is really cool. If I hit the key command A, it says here, hey, when I have the pencil tool selected and I hold Option, I can either access stepped editing, which is a very unique part of the program, which you can't really access anywhere else, or curved editing. And this we can access by hitting the keyboard modifier Control-Shift. And so I'll just show you stepped editing. This does fall in line with my snap to grid, so I do have to access the pencil tool. So you know the behavior of the pencil tool. This is how it acts. But when I hold Option, now all of a sudden I have the ability to create step input Midi data or automation data rather, right? So that's pretty sweet. I really like it, and it says bar here, but it looks more like, let me give you the exact figure. It looks more like 2 beats, doesn't it? Beat 1 and beat 2. All right, if you select curved editing on the other hand, look at what happens here. I'm going to hold Option and let's see. It does this kind of thing. So the other one makes a lot more sense to me. I'm not sure when you would use curved editing, but I really like this whole workflow. So anyway, let's go back here, stepped editing. You know what? I will want to do some more research on this one as well. All right, snap offset. You heard of snap offset? It's really interesting. It says here that it allows a number of ticks to be added to or subtracted from the current snap position of all automation data. So there are times where you'll bypass a plugin or it's not reading it correctly, and you may want to play with the snap offset. I know by default it's on -5, and so let's say, in fact, I'll do it with you. I have the compressor and it's on, and I want to turn it off at bar 5. Now remember, my snap offset is at -5 ticks. So instead of it turning off at bar 5, it's going to turn off at, was it bar 4, beat 3, division, was that 15, and tick 235, if you know your math. So it just depends on how you want to do it. But I've noticed that on 0, I seem to perform pretty well, but I have seen instances where this has been helpful for some people. So that's snap offset. Let me just make sure. Current snap position. Yeah. So this is, it's good. Ramp time determines the time required by a parameter to return to its previously recorded setting. I believe ramp time, they're not saying it here, and it's worthy of looking into, but I believe ramp time has to do with what's it called, the touch automation here. And that's simply because when I do make changes, in fact, let me delete all the changes that I've made here. Let me go to mix, delete visible automation on this specific track. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create an automation change inside of the volume slider. And when I let go of the volume slider, it's going to take a certain amount of time to ramp back down, in this case 8 milliseconds. Again, that's not what they're saying here, but this is what I understand. If you differ, if you have another point of view, let me know. Here we go. All right, so you saw how quickly it went down, right? I made the decision and then it went back down. We know the latch automation does not behave that way, but if I, let's say, what's the highest value I can go here? Can I go like 500? Whoa, okay. Let's try it out. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so there, nothing happened. It just went down right away. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try 5,000. This will be our last experiment. Let's see if this works out. Okay, so actually that makes sense because look how long it takes to get to its previous position. In this case, 25.5. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Let me do 5 milliseconds and let's see if this is true. Yeah, you can see that, right? It didn't take very long for it to go back down 5 milliseconds. So if you're looking to, I wish they would say this though, right? The only reason we're getting this information, and not that I'm some grand expert here, I just love the content, I love the program, and I'm just committed to it every single day. And I just wish they would say, I know this is within automation mode, but again, if you're a beginner, it would be so challenging to decipher this. You'd have to read so many different blogs, go on Reddit, watch resources for the modern creative, check out all of Eddie Gray's videos. It would be like so challenging to finally get this down. So this can be really cool. It's gonna be a really creative tool. I really like that. All right, let's wrap this up. So if we're write mode changes too. Well, you guys know that I am really against this write mode, and mostly because it confuses things. And my mission really is to simplify the program. To simplify something doesn't mean to give you a shortcut or a way out. You're still going to have to earn your stripes. You're still going to have to get your repetitions in. But generally speaking, I believe I have the best system in the world to learn this program, and it will be available to you very soon. But with that being said, there are things that are confusing. And so if I advise clients, companies, consults to avoid certain parts of the program, it's simply because I think that there is more trouble than there is benefit to that area. And so rather than go around in circles a couple times, it's like we're just going to avoid it altogether. So write mode is kind of a bummer. So I'm just going to set that to off. No need to access write mode. And then it's asking here, what would you like to write automation for? And let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. I don't know what. Okay, let's go to the user guide. Oh no, there's no. Yeah, I was hoping we could. And okay, so you see how it says the word write? Are they referring to write as in the automation mode or just recording in automation? So this is obviously fairly confusing. In fact, if I completely disable all this, I wonder if I can access automation settings in here. It looks like I can. Oh no, I can't. Oh wait. No, yes I can. But why is it acting strange? Hold on. Oh no, that's because of my snap automation. Okay, let me. Oh, but it is on. So yeah, I have no idea what this part of the program does. It's not even on the user guide, so I have no idea. I know what automation quick access does, and I'll show you before we leave. Just you see how I disabled all of this? So I have to think that it is tied to write automation mode. I mean, that's just the only logical conclusion. And so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say write, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to only write automation for panning. So these are the volume changes that I've made. Let me go into main. Let me go into pan. Let me just create some fake automation here. Okay. So based on this critical research that we're doing here, you'll see that this is either going to work or it's not. So I'm going to hit play, and the test is going to look something like this. If it erases the volume automation, then this was a success. But we shall see. Was it successful? Hold on. If it erased, yep. Hold on. Yes. Okay, good. So this worked. Now, because I'm not going to use write automation, I'm going to just, this right here is more of a troubleshooting problem. I'm not going to get into it. I do believe there is a limit to learning, especially for beginners. And so, yeah, let's just move on. Automation quick access. this is a really, really nice feature. Let me show you what it does. If you only have one slider or just one rotary knob or just a couple, this feature will greatly expedite your workflow, because if I turn a dial, if I'm inside of an automation parameter, and let me get out of read mode here. Hold on. Okay. You can see that I'll hit the automation quick access on message. Now, this is something you can also hit by key command. I forgot what the key command is. I saw it somewhere too up here, but let's just look at it really fast. AQA. Oh, it's not on there. Automation quick. So that's Control Option Command A. That's set by user by user, and so then now it's theoretically on. Oh, it's not yet defined. I understand. So I have to hit that Learn button. See how it says slowly move or turn the control. So I'm going to go ahead and change and move a parameter right now. Now look at what's happening to my volume knob. Do you guys see that? Let me go ahead and turn this off really quick. Let me hit done. Okay, so as I turn the volume knob, I can automate this. Now that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens is, irregardless of which parameter I have set, I can change that automatically by turning the AQA or the automation quick access knob. So this is really nice. This is just one knob that I'm turning. Let's go ahead and access another parameter. Let's do the attack of the compressor. And again, I'm just playing with the one knob. And if I bring up the compressor, you guys can see that it's already been pre-assigned. All right, so that's automation quick access. If you have any questions, hit us up at support@hfmusicacademy.com. If you would like to pre-register for the 10 free courses that we're offering, so you can learn Logic Pro, so we can train, and you too can become a Logic Pro power user, hit us up at support@hfmusicacademy.com. We just want people to learn the program, to learn it well. I know that this is going to change the game up, and so I'm obviously very enthusiastic about it. Tomorrow, when I do see you, we're going to be talking about control surface preferences, my info, and if you want to tag your music with your own information, and then we'll be transitioning into the project settings from there, my good friends. Page 1030. We're getting there. All right. Well, look, many blessings to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to do this. It has been such a journey. It's been wild. Let's get out of here. Have a great Wednesday. I'll catch you tomorrow. Get high.